And good evening, everyone. Welcome to our virtual presentation of the Sacrifice of Darkness. As you can see, Roxane is not on screen with us. We still have some technical issues that we're working out with her internet connection. So hopefully we'll be able to resolve that, but we did want to get started. Right now, we have writer and essayist Tracy Lynne Oliver. Her essay, Love Letters, was featured in Medium's Unruly Body series. And we also have comic artist and illustrator Rebecca Kirby, whose original comics, Biopsy and Cramps, was featured on Vice and Waves. For those of you who would like to purchase a copy of The Sacrifice of Darkness, we are giving out signed book plates tonight for those who do purchase it online. Just click on the green purchase button directly below the viewer screen and it will take you to our website. Also, if you have any questions for our guests, just click on the Ask a Question button at the very bottom of the screen. You can also vote for any questions that you find interesting, and we will set aside a time to go through those. And I guess as we wait for some latecomers to come in, let me just ask you, Tracy and Rebecca, how have you been this year in this roller coaster of a year?
Tracy, you answer that.
How have we all been? I mean, I am a creature of habit and of routine and of, no surprises. And this year has been the opposite of all of that. So it's been, like you said, a roller coaster. It's from not knowing if I would have a job, my day job, and not knowing, if anyone I knew would get sick, not knowing how long this would all last, and still not knowing
forever.
I don't know how long I'll never know anything, but it's just been a lot of stress and a lot of ups and downs and not knowing. I'm trying to be kind to myself every day because some days, remember earlier in this year, it seems like a year ago, but we had all these demonstrations and crazy stuff. I mean, we've been through it. And I feel like now is a little calm period that the election's behind us. But, I mean, it's sort of...
It's going to get so much worse, to be an optimist.
So, I don't know. It's been just, a tightrope walk. Every day's a new thing. Rebecca...
Well, I'm doing great because I have been hunting down all of the little figurines that they used to give you with your meal at IHOP in the 1990s. So I just got Chocolate Chip Charlie, and that's how I'm doing. Roxane! Hey!
You made it!
Hello!
I'm using my phone's internet, so, manage your expectations.
Here!
So we were just talking about how everyone's year has been since it's been such a roller coaster, and just how everyone has been coping and taking care of themselves.
I've had better years. It has been a very shitty year.
Yeah,
but it's also been a great year. Like personally, it's been a great year.
Such a roller coaster, and just there was an echo, but now it's gone. So
okay, yeah, I had this open in two windows, and so they were competing with each other. But no, it's been a shitty year, but it's also been a great year. Some good things have happened, and some bad things have happened. But now the year is coming to an end.
And have any of you picked up any hobbies or interests or any shows on Netflix that you are binging at this time?
I would love to mention how a friend of mine is going to teach me how to chop wood. So that's where I'm at, and I'm really excited to learn how to do that.
Do you have a fireplace?
I have a fire pit in the backyard so that I can sit near it, and I've learned since my young days sitting in front of a fire pit that if you put your feet on it because it's cold, you will melt your shoes. So now won't do that, and will chop my own wood.
Nice.
Yeah.
At the beginning of quarantine, I got back into jigsaw puzzles in a heavy way, and then also I started making succulent frames, which are those frames, and you
Oh, no way!
And I
Like
never
by
did
hand
before.
or with a kit?
No, by hand. I just had my husband make the
Oh,
frame, and then I bought the plants and put them in, and it was fun, and I learned how to do that.
do they stay alive in there?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta look up that. I want to see.
These are some very interesting new hobbies and skills that you guys are acquiring during this pandemic. But first off, congratulations on the new book, and also congratulations on being named as one of New York Public Library's 2020 Best Books for Adults. That's super exciting.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it was announced today.
Oh, cool! That's awesome.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
So The Sacrifice of Darkness was originally published in your short story anthology, Roxane. Can you just share a little bit about the story and the inspiration behind writing that story?
Yeah, it's a story I wrote several years ago. I was living in Michigan's Upper Peninsula at the time, and it's a beautiful part of the country, but in many ways a forgotten part of the country, where mining used to be the primary industry, copper mining. And when the copper ran dry, the mines closed up and the region remained economically devastated. And so I wanted to write a story about the ways in which the wealthy will exploit people until there's nothing left and then disappear. And then everyone is left to pick up those pieces. And there are these beautiful industrial ruins there. And I thought about what it must be like to work underground all the time. And so I imagined this man, Hiram Hightower, being consumed by how he was forced to work underground and how he started to forget the feeling of the sun. And so he buys an air machine and flies it into the sun, and the world becomes shrouded in darkness. And then his wife and child are left to answer for his actions, even though it's completely understandable. The city or the town that they live in convenes a series of councils to try and make them answer for Hiram, but there's really no answer other than the fact that they exploited him and basically destroyed his life. And he had previously lived a really beautiful life with his wife and his kid. And so that was where the story started.
And how did this team come together? Did you guys know each other before collaborating, or like was this a project that was brought to you on proposal?
Boom approached me about 2.5, 3 years ago and asked if I wanted to do a graphic novel with them. And I thought that was incredibly interesting. And then I had to decide if I wanted to do an original project or to adapt something of mine. And this story has always lingered, and I've always loved it. It was so much fun to write. It's one of those stories that isn't mired in the usual darkness that I write about. And so I thought it was very visual and cinematic and would lend itself very well to a graphic novel. And I also understood the constraints on my time. And so I wanted someone to help me, my best friend. And so I asked her if she would co-write the book with me. And then when we finished co-writing the book, we, our editor, Daphne Pleben at Boom Studios, brought us a selection of artists, and both Tracy and I loved Rebecca's work. And so that's how we started to work with Rebecca.
So I know, Roxane, like, this isn't your first graphic novel, but Tracy, this is your first project, right? Like,
yeah.
Were you nervous about working in this medium? Like, what was something that you didn't know about writing graphic novels that you learned kind of on the job?
I didn't know anything. So when Roxane asked me to do this, nervously excited, we met with Daphne. I love the story to begin with. I accepted the offer to do it purely on Roxane's faith in me. She knows my abilities really well. We've known each other for over 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. She knows my writing very well. So I just said, well, if she thinks I can do it, then I could probably do it. And just started working on it. So her original story deals with mostly Joshua and Claire's story, which is after the son gets taken away. So I expanded it into Hiram and Mara's story, which is kind of like the before times when the sun was shining. And then once we liked that, I had to do the scripting. That was a complete new thing for me. So it was a big learning curve. But once I got it down, it was actually easy but challenging at the same time. I'm a super visual writer. So as soon as I realized, oh, you just take what's in your head and you put it out in these little panels and, on the page that way, it was easier to look at it that way. But then it was also hard to like take this long prose that you have and distill it down and just to a number of panels. But then I started realizing, oh, that's where the artist comes in and she fills in all that part. So yeah, I didn't really know anything. And by the end, I felt really comfortable. It's once you got into the rhythm of how it works and everything.
And Rebecca, since you were tasked to visualize the story, can you tell us a bit about like how you came up with the character designs? Did you have any like reference photos for the setting?
Yeah.
Because this is like science fiction.
Yeah. So Daphne came to me again in the beginning. I was presented with the script. She would like read through it, check it out. So I did have some up. Okay, we'll figure that out. We did have some idea of like what the characters were going to look like, and so it was mostly as far as what I was getting in terms of direction, it was Daphne giving me a lot of really good reference and like back and forth in terms of how she envisioned them, which was really helpful for me. And then in terms of like reference for this world, it's sort of interesting getting to hear Roxane talk about her original sort of reference for writing the original story. A lot of my reference is taken just from like my own surroundings in Pennsylvania. I have like endless folders on my phone and on my computer of wherever I go, because I think it's really nice to sort of keep these things as a record. You never know when you're going to use them. So I just endless pictures of Pennsylvania and of places that I've traveled to actually just a couple months before I started working on this. Through America, I took a Amtrak through from Pennsylvania to Los Angeles. And so there was a lot of photo taking on that because you get to sort of stop and get out at all the major stops and you can't really walk around very much, but there's a lot that you can take pictures of and it's really pretty and not anything that I would ever get to see or like feel like I was going to use apart from just kind of like looking at a couple years later. So it was really nice to be able to use photos from my own like travels. But yeah, I use a lot of photo reference and I try to make sure that I keep a lot of it to sort of give like some sense of like depth and reality to whatever I'm drawing, even if it ends up being complete fantasy.
Speaking of fantasy, like, have you all been like big science fiction fantasy fans growing up? And if so, like, what are some books or shows or just pop culture references that you've kind of used to help influence your work?
I actually read a lot of fantasy fiction growing up and as an adult. I just love fantasy. I love the world building and I just love it. Mostly the world building and the intrigue and the drama. And so it felt like a really great opportunity to be able to dabble in the genre myself. One of the first fantasy series I ever read was Mistress of the Empire or Daughter of the Empire. It's 3 books of the Empire: Servant of the Empire, A Daughter of the Empire, Mistress of the Empire, not in that order, by Raymond Feist and Janie Wirtz. And they were just incredible novels about this young woman who ultimately becomes the mistress of the entire empire, but there are all kinds of obstacles in her way, and people trying to usurp her power and deny her power, but ultimately she prevails. And so, yes.
How about you, Tracy and Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm an equal opportunity reader, and I was a big reader as a kid and to this day, and loved all genres. I was really into C.S. Lewis, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I would say is sci-fi, but and then there's the Tripod series, which I loved. And then when I grew up, I was still like, what was that series? And I bought the books off at a used bookstore. It's The White Mountains, The City of Gold and Lead, or whatever. There's like 3 books, and it was set in the future, and they put little discs on people, and they're fighting against them. And I just, it was the best. Of course, like Star Trek, Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
I was like, my entire who I am as a person in every facet was completely formed by fantasy literature and picture books and movies and animations and like folklore, and all of this stuff was a huge part of me like choosing to draw it all, just because you hear all this stuff and you want to see it, like you're curious as a little kid, so you have to make it if you want to see it. And so that's, I don't think I would be any good at drawing. I don't think that I'd be good at making things up or thinking about anything if it wasn't for this. And kudos to my parents for like reading to me constantly. And my stepfather is a classicist, and so I grew up with a lot of poetry and ancient mythologies, and all of that was like a huge part of me growing up. Man, the Hitchhiker's Guide was
a classic.
Oh my god, was like a huge stand in Star Trek, the original series. Was like a massive thing for me, and I still have like the collector's edition on DVD, like the full set with like the cards and all this stuff. It's so nice. And then like video games too, which was a huge part of like media and me growing up. And again, like the quality wasn't great when I was a kid, and it was all like like little pixels, 6 pixels made up like a guy, and so you would have to sit there and draw it if you wanted to imagine what your hero actually looked like. And I was obsessed with doing that. I wanted to like fill in all the pictures when I was a kid, because if you're reading like Winnie the Pooh and you get to a page where there's no picture of Winnie the Pooh, you have to draw Winnie the Pooh if you want to see what he's doing. And so it was really just trying to answer everything for myself when I was a kid. I don't know. I'm so glad that this kind of stuff exists and that I get to contribute to it as an adult. It's pretty great.
It's funny that you mentioned Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because like it has had like multiple adaptations, and each one has been radically different. So my question is like, how was adapting? Like, did you make any big changes from like the original story to the graphic novel? Like, were there any tweaks to, I guess, like the characters?
I would not say like major between script and what I did. I definitely did my own level of adaptations, and like I think that we talked about this before, where when it comes to application and you're drawing something out on the page, you might find that, say, in the script, if it says like 6 panels and these actions are happening in each panel, as I'm doing it, it might seem actually this will be more readable, or like have a different, more effective rhythm, or whatever, if I draw it, say, in like 4 panels, or like I condense these panels to 1, or I do like a splash page or something like that. So I was given a lot of freedom to interpret that way and make some like executive decisions on little moments of like rhythm, and which also was like really neat for me, because it meant that I had opportunities to sneak in like more stuff that I wanted to draw. Like there's a, I don't know if this isn't a spoiler, it's fine. There's a part where Hiram and Mara are meeting at a picnic table, and there was some part that I got to condense into like one big panel that took up like a third of the page. And I was so excited that I was like, oh, this works better. And I get to draw like 5 more trees in this panel. Like, that's what I like to do. So it was, yeah. But as far as like huge changes to the story, absolutely not. But yeah.
In terms of the story, adapting it from the short story into a graphic novel, there weren't really any changes, but what we did is expand the story and really look at who these people were more in depth than you can in a short story. You're taking like what was probably a 30-page short story and expanding it into 160 pages, or I think 120 pages. And so you really have to ask yourself, who are these people? And how did Hiram and Mara meet and fall in love? And what did Joshua and Claire's friendship look like? And you get hints of these things in the short story, but we really expanded them. And especially Tracy brought quite a lot of imagination to expanding the story and adding a lot of the really intimate and beautiful details. The wedding vows, for example, are not in the short story. And it's incredibly beautiful and romantic. And I think all of us are very fond of that scene.
What about you, Tracy? Were there parts that you were particularly proud of to add onto the original story?
Roxane has a very distinct voice. It's a romantic voice. I don't really have a romantic voice, so I was very yeah, I don't really write romantic stuff, but
I feel you, yeah.
I really wanted to honor her voice and stay consistent with the tone of the whole story. So I kept that in mind when writing Hiram and Mara's portion. Wait, what was the question?
Was there any like new details that you were proud of to add on to the canon, I guess?
Yeah, so I felt pretty good that the whole new details was the whole Hiram and Mara story, that I could just make it one chunk. And then, so that was fine. It was when I had to kind of embellish on Claire and Joshua's story and kind of, we had to kind of kill our darlings, for lack of a better term, on what to keep in on that story and, visually what would work the best. So try to make those decisions in the Joshua and Claire portion of the story was, we tried to keep what we thought would work best, but just expanding some details like the name of the mineral that they were mining and what that ended up being used for was kind of an addition. But other than that, the new stuff was, I don't know, it was easy because it was just blue sky for me. I didn't have to rewrite anything. It was just an open book for me.
Well, it looked like you guys had good synergy on this project, which is good. So I'm going to read a question that one of the audience members sent in. This is a question sent in from John. What aspects of creating the story surprised you? I know, tough question.
I wrote it, so
very shocking. Yeah.
Anything surprised me? I think what surprised me was how much I enjoyed writing the love stories, both of Hiram and Mara, and also Joshua and Claire, because so much of the story is not about love; it's about hate, and it's about persecution. And so what surprised me was how much it felt necessary to balance all of that and to really have something light to balance the darkness, particularly in a story that is mostly about darkness.
Do you think the world in your story is darker than the world that we're living in now?
Oh, of course not. Nothing could be fucking Let's just be real. Like right now, it's just fucking midnight out. It's just a shit show. So
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, that's my groan that I'm contributing.
And were there any parts that surprised you two, Tracy and Rebecca, on creating the story?
My only surprises were when I got Rebecca's pages back and saw things either I hadn't anticipated, and also James Fenner, who did the color.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the coloring is gorgeous. It's like
yeah.
a
James nailed it. He nailed it.
He did.
So
The
good.
color blows me away.
Seriously.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how the whole darkness versus light would be handled. I'm like, are we gonna have a really like just black book? But
yeah,
the tones that he put together, just I have it in my head. I write it down. Rebecca sends it back, and she, like what she said, she was given Daphne such a good editor.
Yeah, oh my god. Oh my god.
Just the pages that would come back, and I'm like, wow, like that's even better than what I had wanted or expected. It was just, that was the best part for me, was getting the stuff back, like, because Rebecca just killed it.
I was surprised because I worked chronologically, so like it's not like I didn't read the script, but you read it with like a different eye when you're drawing it. You have to pull every single detail out so you can determine like what's the most important thing in each panel that like needs to get done so that you can read the book. And so I was working just through the script, like from beginning to end, and I found myself really surprised at like how attached I got to like Claire and Joshua. Like obviously I enjoyed working on Hiram and Mara's story a lot actually, but whenever I would switch between the two, I would find myself missing the two that I had just left to start working on the other couple story. And I'd be like, oh, like I would be surprised by like we're already jumping to this, like I'm not done yet, and I was filled with like the suspense of like reading it, but in super slow motion because I'm drawing the book. But yeah, I was really super, because it's not like I didn't know what was gonna happen. Like I read it, but I was still, every time I was like, like as if it was the first time I was reading it. It was a really surreal experience.
So this question is from Lauren. Is there anything you feel you can do in a graphic novel format that you can't do in a short story or prose?
I mean, I have feelings about that.
There are lots of things you can do in a graphic novel. I mean, you get to really show and tell, which is so much fun. And you have to think more in terms of scene, and you have to think about visual and frame, and it really forces you to think about the story on a granular level.
Yeah, because my writing is super language driven. I get really immersed in getting the right sentences, using the right words, the right rhythm. So it's kind of like when you strip that all away, what do you have? You have the essence of each scene and the character. So it was like, how do I get that into the novel? So it was just more stripped down and with more intent, I think.
I think as a medium, it fills a bunch of beautiful gaps. That, obviously when you're reading a story, you're reading words that were put there with like massive intent to encourage you to sort of fill in the gaps on your own. You can visualize things as you're reading. It's like projecting something for you. And there's like a poetry to it and a language to it. And then when you have it as a graphic novel or a comic book or something illustrated, there's like this whole other translation, like a whole other language in which you get to do all of that. And I think one of my favorite things about it is how you get to play with time, and how you get to play with rhythm and hierarchy and things like that. You have this super interesting language where you, depending on what you draw, how much you draw, and how you've done it, how you've paced the panels, whether you chose to use panels or not, you can determine how much time people are likely to look at that one panel and how much time they're willing to spend there. And you can speed up time in other ways, and you have something that people can revisit like constantly. In the same way with a book, if you want to read that line again because it's super poetic to you, you can. And you can just sit with it forever. Like in the same way that when you listen to a song that you like a lot and like was super important to you at a certain point in your life or whatever, you can reread the graphic novel again. You can experience it again completely while looking at everything again and learning more and seeing better each time you do it. And I think it's a super special medium that way.
Yeah, I think graphic novels are definitely like a very special medium that kind of melds in like cinematic qualities with prose. And that leads me to the next audience question. It's from Stephanie. When can we expect a film adaptation? And I'm going to add saying, if you could cast, who would be the dream cast for this book, for this story? And that is to like pretend that like film companies can actually shoot things nowadays, and people can still go to
the ideal situation.
Yeah, in an ideal world.
Well, I mean, most productions are back at work, so that's good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Just with slightly smaller, like normally on a film or television set, it's swarming with people, and so now it has been made more efficient. It will probably be adapted into a film or a television show. I don't know when, and this book came out at a great time in many ways, but nothing is going to be really happening in the film television space between now and the end of the year. And so I think we'll start to see some movement in the new year, and I'm excited. I would love to see the guy who's in Lovecraft Country, the beautiful black man who's also in
The Last Man in San Francisco.
Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Oh!
I want to say Jonathan Green, but that's not his name. Anyway, he's an amazing actor, and I think he would be a great Hiram Hightower.
Tracy, Rebecca, do you have any, or are you Googling people right now?
Tracy, are you Googling actors for this?
I was Googling, but I can't allow myself to think that would actually happen because it would just be too amazing. So I haven't gotten into casting yet in my dream cast, but Idris Elba, I was just
my God.
Maybe do a personal casting session with him just to see if it's right. Maybe a little one-on-one. He might be out of the age range, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
God, I think I'm too attached to Claire in her current iteration to picture a human person. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, Roxane. Who was the young singer girl actress? One name.
Zendaya.
That's the one.
I think Zendaya.
Oh yeah, she's perfect.
There.
She's also just seems like a wonderful person. So there's that.
You hear that, Hollywood?
Yeah.
That's their dream cast. This question is from Lynella, and it's for you, Rebecca. How long did it take you to draw all of the pages?
Honestly, this was like a relative. There was a period in the middle where I couldn't work due to personal business going on. But I think from beginning to end, not counting that, God, it was what? September of 2019 to like, I want to say, what, like April? Was it April? I can't remember. Around that amount of time, however many months that is, I don't know. I can count on my fingers, but that's embarrassing. So I'm going to do it actually below the screen where you can't see me. September, I don't know, like 7 months, I think. Yeah, took 7 months.
How many pages was it all overall?
I think it's 120.
120.
And I realized that, like, as a comics person, like 3/4 of my validity as being able to work like at half of that pace, but I don't. So we can all determine if it was worth it. I think it was worth it.
I think it was worth it as well.
Thank you. Validated.
Validation.
Yeah.
This question is from Paige. If you were to write this again, is there anything you would change or do differently?
Ooh, interesting one. Spicy question.
Not at all.
Absolutely not.
I mean, the thing is, you are who you are as a writer at every given stage. And so there's nothing I've ever written that I look back at and think I'm ashamed. I think, no, I did the best I could at that time in my life. And so I would not change anything about this book. With each progressive thing I do in the comic/graphic novel space, I learn more. And so I know that each thing will be hopefully progressively better, but I don't look at anything that we did in this book and think, oh, damn, it's not good enough. Well, I guess there's one thing I would do. I think I would probably complicate more of the plot after Hiram flies his air machine into the sun and sort of flesh out more of the consequences of that.
Interesting. I need to write down that thing about you are the artist that you are at that time.
Oh, absolutely. You should. I mean, it really helps me because so many writers are like, oh, I'm so embarrassed about this thing I wrote when I was 17. Like, you're fucking 17. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, really gentle with yourself. Like, we all are just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I just listened to an interview with Elton John, and he has a box set coming out where he has a bunch of demos, and they played 2 songs that he wrote himself and not, his other guy, the writer guy, that songs, drawing a blank. But he was so embarrassed, and I'm like, Elton John can be embarrassed of his early work.
Yeah.
We're all allowed to grow with our art and our skills at the time that we have them. And
that's true.
Good point, Roxane.
Dang. Yeah, I need to cling to that one for the rest of my life. Actually, yeah, that's really good.
Print it out and hang it up on your wall.
Oh yeah, no, I'm getting it tattooed across my own face. Yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so we got a couple more questions here. All right. Did you get the idea for the Corona Town Council from the current pandemic?
Time traveling business.
No, we wrote this 2 years ago. Graphic novels take a lot of time. And so, yeah, we wrote this 2 years ago. And
so was Corona in the original story?
No, I'm sorry, what? Yes, it was Corona, and it was always Corona.
2012?
Yeah, it was always Corona. It's never changed. And in the original story, there are like multiple councils. And so I opened up a thesaurus and just looked up sort of terminologies involving the sun. And in fact, our editor asked us, because of the pandemic, should we change the Corona Council? And I was like, no.
It's funny how that worked out.
Yeah, that's like wild.
Yeah, because we wrote it, so we finished our part in 2018, and so we knew this, like the final version was coming out this year. So I got a PDF like in February, or like late February, and I started reading it. I'm like, aren't we living this right now? This is so weird. Kind of like surreal that the story was kind of like what we were going through, where the world just changed overnight and you had to adapt or not.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if like a year or 2 years from now, we're going to get like Corona like stories, like COVID.
Yeah, of course we are.
COVID pandemic romance novels.
They're going to come way too soon. They're going to happen like immediately, and we're all going to have to like relive exactly what happened as like a series of cups that you can buy, and I'm going to be so upset. So I'm going to call it now.
All right. So this question is from Jennifer. I have not read the original story, so I am wondering if there's anything that was cut out when making the graphic novel.
We got everything in there mostly, right?
It really was expansion more than subtract.
Yeah.
More than making it smaller. Subtraction. My God.
You did it.
I know. Thank you.
I mean, that makes sense because it's adapted from a short story. So, you know, to have like a full length 120 pages graphic novel, you would have to fill in more than subtract. So that does make sense. So we are winding down. So let me ask you, since Thanksgiving is only 2 days away, what your Thanksgiving plans are, and do you have a to-go Thanksgiving dish that you're like super confident in making?
I'm doing nothing because there's a pandemic, so I'm staying in my house with only the people that are in my house right now. And I'm going to make sweet potatoes, not just because of Thanksgiving, but because I eat them every day of my life. That's my plan. It's going to be great.
I'm kind of bummed because for 30 plus years, I've gone to my mom's in San Francisco for Thanksgiving with my family, and she's been holed up alone all year.
No.
She doesn't want us to come. I don't want to get her sick, so we're not going there. And it was getting really good because the last 3 Thanksgivings we turned into Steaksgiving. So we had steak because we were all sick of turkey.
Damn.
So we're not doing that. And I guess I'm having a regular turkey-based Thanksgiving without my mom. And I'm very sad.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tracy.
Sorry.
2020.
Yeah.
I too have canceled my Thanksgiving, and I'm really upset about it. It's really shitty, and you know, it's really the pressure that like people have put on social media about Thanksgiving travel this year has been incredibly fucked up, and the virtual signaling that people have done has been incredibly fucked up. My mom has stage 4 lung cancer, so to tell me not to go see her this year is to tell me to maybe not spend her last Thanksgiving with her.
Yeah.
And like people are like, well, we're all making sacrifices. And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like people have lost all perspective around this issue. And to be clear, I think it's dangerous to travel this year. And the only reason we canceled our trip is because we do not want to bring infection into my mom's bubble. She lives in a bubble with my brother and his wife and my dad. They live together now for a lot of reasons, but primarily because we didn't want my parents to get too lonely during all of this isolation. Yeah. And it's worked out really well. And they're coming to stay with us in a month. So that's how we rationalized that it would be fine. But it's rough. So instead, my wife and I are going to actually cook a full Thanksgiving meal. And it's going to be really fun. And, you know, a little bittersweet, but it's all good. I mean, minus the sort of time is precious thing. I think it'll be nice to have a chill Thanksgiving without all the stress of travel. And I've been seeing the videos from airports, and man, it's going to be rough in 2 weeks. It's going to be rough. Oof.
Yeah, this holiday season is something.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, like a full Thanksgiving feast like that is a lot of work. Like, are you used to cooking like a full Thanksgiving meal?
I've never made it before. In fact, after the conversation, I'm going downstairs and I'm going to spatchcock a turkey so that I can
get
it in buttermilk. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And okay, so we are close to the end. So let me close with this question, and I'm sure everybody else is wondering this too. What is next on your plate? Do you have any other projects that are lined up that you can talk about?
Why don't one of you guys go first?
Tracy, you.
Yeah, I have a novel in the hopper, and I'm working on one now. And I mean, I guess that's it. It's been hard to create this year. I won't lie. Part of it's excuses, part of it's reality. But I've been pecking. I reopened the Word doc, and I've been working on it recently. So I just hope I get some momentum there. That's it.
Yeah, I'm doing comics and doing small jobs.
I'm working on some comic projects, book projects, some film and television projects, some consulting, and some essays and a podcast. I'm doing too much. It has truly gotten out of control, and I don't even know how to stop the train. I just don't know what to do anymore. But it's a very good problem to have. Like, definitely don't cry for me, Argentina.
Well, thank you so much, Roxane, Tracy, and Rebecca, for taking the time to, be on this event with us. We're all in different time zones, by the way, so we greatly appreciate your time. And thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. If you tuned in late, don't worry, we'll have a replay available within about like an hour. Just use the same stream link and you should be able to watch it. And also feel free to pass it to friends who are unable to make it tonight. And again, we do have signed book plates available for those who purchase a copy of The Sacrifice of Darkness tonight. Just click on the green purchase button directly below the viewer screen and it will take you to our website. Just make sure to write book plate in the comment section when you're completing your purchase so that our will call knows to send you a signed book plate. And I think that about covers it all. Thank you again, everyone. Stay safe and take care. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love Vroman, so I guess I shouldn't speak for all of us, but I love Vroman.
Well, thank you.
And
all right.
Thank you so much.
Bye.